It's Mail It In Friday.
The plant called and said if you don't come in tomorrow, don't bother coming in Monday.
Woohoo! 4-day weekend.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
I need you to hold on. Heaven is a place not too far away. We all know I should be the one to say we all make mistakes. Take my
Hour 2 OverDrive continues live from the RBC Canadian Open. Hamilton Golf and Country Club, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. Jamie Noodles McLennan, TSN 1050, up on TSN 2 all afternoon. Jason Strudwick will join us here in a moment. Oilers Stars tonight. I haven't seen any word yet on Chris Tanev. A lot of people buzzing about that.
He had the walking boot, right?
Yeah, and they're, I guess, being coy with it and saying it's questionable. You'll find out at game time.
He's going to play. If the coach says I'm confident, he's going to play.
How do you have a walking boot? I guess as long as you get into your skate, they can make that work. But that seems extreme, like a walking boot.
All I know is that Chris Tanev's a warrior. You hear stories about him playing in Calgary where it's, this guy, nothing stopped this guy from playing. And, I think, when you think about it, like he's been a real shutdown matchup, him and Lindell. Like, that game might have changed a little bit. He came out. He didn't play the rest of the second period. And Edmonton kept leaning on them. If he doesn't play tonight, that's a big loss for their penalty kill, too. And Edmonton, that's one thing I've been saying all along. Edmonton's penalty kill is going to have to win them a game here. I'm sorry,
their power play.
Sorry, power
which
play.
they've been riding for 2 years
They've been riding
now.
for 2 years, but it's been anemic their last 9-10 times. Whatever it is, they're 0 for 10. Mm-hmm. Their power play has to be a difference maker if Edmonton's going to get through. I think.
I agree with you. I mean that is their bread and butter. Like that is they
so they put teams away.
Yeah, and statistically they're literally the best power play of all time.
Yeah, arguably.
Last
exactly.
year. Like it's absurd what they've done, and they did that to LA. They did it at times against Vancouver, but credit where credit's due. Dallas.
Right.
Obviously has the ability to kill. Ottinger's a big part of that. Your best killer is always going to be your goaltender.
Yeah.
But, yes, if Tanev doesn't play, or even if he does play and he's at 70%, 80%, like that's a foot speed issue.
Yes.
That's where, again, if McDavid's going on you, going wide, and you've lost a half step, you're toast.
Well, what do you make of tonight? Because I can't, Gretzky had the comment the other day. He's like, I have no idea what the hell's going on to try and predict
I think it's going 7.
I think it is too, but if you look at it, it's kind of just been counterpunch. Like, so it would favor Dallas tonight, home ice and all that. But, this is where Edmonton can go, hey, like we feel good about our game last game. Maybe it's Stuart Skinner that just puts his hand up and goes, I need a stolen game. He had one in L.A.
Wouldn't hurt.
He had one in L.A. They shut him out 1-0, and I think he made 37-5, something like 35 saves. He was really good. He needs a night where it's like the Stuart Skinner night. We talk about McDavid night, Skinner. If Edmonton's going to get through. Now, on the other side, it might be the Ottinger night.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a lot of different players you can look at on both sides. But in terms of generational talent, we were talking about McElroy rolling through here half an hour ago. Like, McDavid is on a different level. We all saw the TNT thing on Gretzky in the Canada Cup, which was brilliantly done.
Yeah.
Mike Kelly looking at the stats of Fuhrer and looking at Lemieux and Gretzky. And it just highlighted the best players of that series. You know, Gretzky and Lemieux just dominated, and Gretzky in particular in his ability to make plays.
Do you think McDavid's gotten to dominant yet?
No, I don't see that, but I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, he wants to be in that category. And for this generation, he is. But, this idea that most evolved, all that kind of stuff, Gretzky, by 87, was probably younger than McDavid is now. Right. And, Gretzky had cups, and he had Canada Cups, and he had scoring titles and MVPs. And I get it's a different league now. It's a different sport now. I understand that.
Right.
But I guess what I'm saying is the great players would go into a game like tonight. They're not talking about who's in net. They're not talking about the injury of a defenseman. You look at one player.
There you go.
Yes.
That guy.
That guy right there. And hockey in particular is difficult because it is a team sport. He's 35 minutes of the game tonight, he's not on the ice.
Right.
So it's not like a quarterback who's got the ball in his hand every single snap. It's not like a goalie who never leaves.
Right.
Or a pitcher who ostensibly could give you a complete game and just give you nothing. But when in doubt, look at the best player. And I'm curious, and I'm excited to see what McDavid in particular brings tonight. And Draisaitl's probably not far behind.
No.
All right, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's our good buddy, who I'm sure is very nervous about tonight. Very, very nervous.
Yeah.
Yet, it's a 2-2 series. Here's Jason Strudwick. What are the vibes like out in Edmonton today, Struddy, going into Game 5 tonight?
Well, I've been more worried about you guys. Are you guys getting press conference fatigue? You know, a lot of exciting moments, exciting news out there in Toronto. So how are you guys handling that?
We love a press conference.
What press conference fatigue are we struggling from, you idiot?
Are you talking Leafs? Are you talking Argos? Are you talking? What are we talking about here?
Well, Toronto loves a press conference, right? Let's have a press conference to announce a press conference, just to talk about what we could talk about in the future.
Yes.
So
that is true.
Exciting times.
Oh,
Shreddy,
exciting
before we
times.
get to the hockey stuff, we heard a comment yesterday, one of your go-to lines in the bar, if you weren't happy with things, you would throw out in Edmonton back in the day, "If you're not careful, I'll buy the bar and fire you." That was brought up yesterday. How many times did you say that back in the day?
Well, I regret it as soon as it came out of my mouth. But I'll tell you what. Looking back, I should have offered a discount. I'll take it at 30%, not full price.
What a line that is, man. Imagine having
it's a flex.
We got to give him
power move.
We've got to give him some context, though, Struddy. We should have said, have you ever, or have those words ever come out of your mouth? I will buy this bar and fire you.
Yeah, it did. Oh, it came out. But to be fair, I'd had a few China Whites, so my tongue loosens up.
What is a China White, Struddy?
They're pretty strong. They're stronger than you think, dog, right? They're like sandbags piled up by themselves. They're not much, but you pile up 10, you're starting to feel the strength of it.
Yeah. And I'm sure, to be fair to you, Struddy, I'm sure whoever you were talking to, they were probably being very rude.
Yeah, the
right?
bouncer.
They were probably being
you
very rude.
You don't go with that line unless it's well deserved.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone was really barking up your tree, and you just weren't going to handle it anymore.
How nice these big stars and Doc Martens I'm wearing right now? I should walk right into this place with no cover charge. None.
Yeah, exactly. The vibe you bring alone. I mean, it's like the old, ladies enter free until midnight.
Yeah.
If Struddy's there, it's just you're making money. You're making money. So, we were talking, there's so many different players you can look at naturally into a big game like tonight. It's such a pivotal game, 2-2 series, Game 5 on the road. But McDavid in particular, how would you describe his playoffs so far? Has he been consistently dominant in your eyes? Has he been inconsistent? How would you, if someone hasn't seen him play a shift and you're like, all right, the Oilers are alive, 2-2, Game 5 in Dallas tonight. Tell me, what have you seen out of Connor the last month and a half? How would you describe his play?
Well, he's getting so much attention, especially here against Dallas. They are all over him, not giving him much space. I thought Game 3, he was great. Skating really well all over the place and was able to find some space. And in Game 4, they're tightening things up. But he's like a AI machine. He's figuring out as he goes. How do I find some space? How do I make things happen? And what I really liked was last game he had a bit of a 2-on-1. And instead of trying to pass it, he shot it. Now, it may have been a shot pass off the pad, but either way, I'd like to see him shoot the puck more because I think right now a lot of defenders, and at least I know I would, I'm thinking he's trying to pass. So I don't think they're giving a lot of respect to his shot, not that he's have a good one. But if he takes a couple more shots, now the deer wondering, is he going to shoot because I got to block it, or is he going to pass? I got to get my stick in that lane. So, I think he's been good. And, we've seen some massive gains from him. But I think he's probably doing one of these last, I'm guessing this is going 7, one of these last 3 games, he's just going to go off, especially if Tanev's not there. That is a humongous situation. And even if he is, what's his mobility like? You remember a few years ago against the Oilers, he was in Calgary, he had basically he couldn't even move his arm and he went and played. So if he's in there, he's not 100%, he's got to attack him and go after him because that means other guys are getting more ice time. So I think he has an opportunity to really go off in one of these last 3, and that means the rest of the team has to get it done one other game to get to 2 wins that are required.
So is it just as simple as maybe Stuart Skinner steals one, or where are you at? Actually, I should go back and say, where are you at with the Darnell Nurse criticism, how his game went even last game? Because it didn't start great, but I thought it ended very well for him. Where are you at with Nurse?
I mean, he's got a better, higher gear, and you know, he's taken a lot of heat here from the fan base, and then, you know, there's some really hard articles and comments made. I thought they were unfair on him.
Struddy, what is the heat for, though? Is it because he's on the ice for so many goals going in the net?
Yeah.
Is he playing awful, in your opinion? Like, what is the heat exactly for?
Yeah, so they're concerned about the plus minus, and I mean, plus minus is, I do look at it, I do believe it, but you got to understand the context. Is he or is he not responsible for these goals? So just the first 2 goals of last game, he was just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, that happens. But what I think you can't be critical for Darnell is his level of physicality and engagement. I believe for the Oilers to win this series and, you know, have any kind of success in what will look like against Florida, he's got to be the alpha male and physical. And his hit totals last game were off the charts. I think if you combine that game, it's more than he had in all the previous 5 or 6 games. And we've seen him do it before in previous playoff rounds. He's been so physical and so intimidating and so just that apex predator out there that it sets the tone, because you got that going. Then you have Bouchard wheeling and dealing, and Ekholm just being, you know, a really, really solid, good defenseman. Now you have 3 guys that are on the ice. One of them's pretty much on the ice 40, 45 minutes a night, and that is huge. So, you know, I think, quite frankly, the Oilers fans should be thanking him. If that's what got him fired up, because if this gets him going and playing hard like that. So again, decisions, we all, you know, every demon makes bad choices, but I think the level of intensity and intimidation that he brought last game is a must for the rest of these playoffs if the Oilers are going to have success.
With Jason Strudwick, you mentioned, you know, the media, and that's been a big story, you know, about how they're handling Nurse and all that. Like, give us some examples here, because I don't understand that. Like, what is unfair? Like, does it feel personal to you? Describe what is unfair about the coverage of Nurse.
Well, I mean, the one I saw that I thought was pretty strong was when they were already talking about, you know, you can't buy him out. It's a brutal contract, right. And that's mid playoff. I mean, you can wait, you know, 5 days if you're really passionate about it, right? And I think. Right. I think that's unfair. You know,
who's saying that, though, Strud? Is that Twitter trolls or is that...
No, this was a report, and I'm not going to name names, and, you know, whatever. Everyone does their own job, and I'm not critical, but I just think as a player, if I saw that, I'd be like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm in game 4 of this thing, and we're still going. So I think I would have been pissed off as well. But you use it to motivate. You know, and I know personally when people said things about me, I loved it. I loved it because I got pissed off and I'd come out and play like not as good as Darnell, but play at that level of intensity. So I think that is, you know, if you want to criticize some of the choices he makes or whatever, but, you know, just to say, well, his plus minus is terrible and, you know, we should look at buying him out. I think the buyout part is a bridge too far at this time of year.
You ever tell a reporter you're going to buy the paper and you'll fire him?
Well, it was a small magazine, right? The Crestwood Gazette, and I probably could get it. You know, to be fair, I advertise my hockey camp in that, so I'm part owner already.
You know what, though, Struddy? I got to go back to this comment or whatever article by the reporter. If Darnell were like, he gets zero credit for Darnell. Like, to me, I would be bothered, like, because Darnell responds. That guy's patting himself on the back going, I'm the man. I did this. No, Darnell Nurse went out and did it. You had nothing to do with it. Like, to me, that I think that's where people in the media think they're more important than they are, really, because the players go out and play. Yes, Darnell Nurse, he hasn't been playing well. I get that. And he can play better. And he's got a roadmap of how he needs to play. Struddy, you just laid that out. But for him to get pissed off and go, okay, that reporter pissed me off. Now I'm going to play, and the reporter's
stopping
like,
people on the street saying I might get the Oilers to a cup final.
That's the only thing that bothers me about it, because that reporter's going to think I'm the one who.
Why would any reporter
want
credit for any kind of nonsense
I'm just throwing it out there. Do you guys know?
I understand what you're saying. I think it just bothers you, the idea that it's possible the reporter would think that way. I guarantee you they would think that 100%. That he personally
it's in
inspired
every guys.
Darnell
It's in every
Nurse.
market. It's not in just in Edmonton.
of course.
People in Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, you name it. There's reporters out there that will write a hard article, and they think they're the ones.
Well,
that
the
are
Sun thinks Lucas Dostal, his success is simply because of them and their front page.
Well, the Sun had that.
They won. He was the best goalie at the Worlds because they inspired him.
Listen, Lucas Dostal is a very good goaltender, and the Sun did. That was just they deserve a bogey on that because that was
they buried him.
Yeah, they buried
him.
But I don't know. I don't know if how you feel, Struddy. I just that kind of always bothered me because it's like, you can write a hard article, you can write or say whatever you want, as long as you stay within the lines of respect.
Mm-hmm.
But if Nurse needs that to motivate himself, then this guy's in Game 4, Game 5 of the playoff.
Right.
The
Be
third
motivated
round.
by how close you are to actually winning a Stanley Cup.
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm going with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's a fair comment, but I guess that, you have to kind of look at the facts, right? That comment came out, and the next day he has 12 hits.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is there a coincidence there? I don't know. I mean, and he had a pretty spicy morning, kind of like what's that running back there for Seattle? I'm here to answer.
Oh yeah, Marshawn Lynch.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
Marshawn Lynch.
And he had a Marshawn Lynch, and that's fine. Like I have no problem with that. Like I think it adds a little texture, a little spice to the whole playoffs. But I don't know, Noodles. I just I don't know if it's that much of a coincidence that you just come out and you're pissed off. And I don't mind. I think honestly, Darnell Nurse is a better defenseman when he's pissed off because he intimidates. And I was sitting in the seats. I had some significant amount of popcorn. I actually kind of embarrassing, but as I was sitting there watching, he would go after guys for no reason and just kind of push guys or bully them a little bit. And I just love that from him because they need that from him in this series to kind of be that guy, that intimidating presence that we've seen him do many times in the playoffs. And we just haven't seen it, so far this playoffs, which is, everyone's got to get out of their comfort zone, and he's comfortable in that role. So I think it's something that if he embraces that for the next 2-3 weeks, it increases, assuming the Oilers get past this round, it increases their chances of success, and everyone has to find that extra gear.
Strud, I've loved Draisaitl's pressers where he continues to go back to the well and says he's complimentary of the other three teams that are left, but he also says, when we're at our best, I like our team against any of them any night. And I love when he does that, and he's done it often, and it seems like, although talk doesn't really matter, it doesn't affect any score or the results, but I just love the fact that he says, we're good too, and our best can beat anybody. I love it.
Well, I mean, self-talk's really important. So if he's saying that to the media, what do you think they're seeing in that dressing room? They're not sitting there saying we just have to throw our sticks on the ice and win, but, they're like, hey, guys, we can compete. We are here to compete. We're not here to learn. We're not here to experience, to grow. We're here to win and to compete, and that is what the message is from obviously Leon saying that, so he's saying in the room, and others are saying that, and you can see it. You start the last game, you're down 2-0. I mean, like I said, I barely had a handful of popcorn in my mouth, and the tears are flowing all around me. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they're like, screw it. And I thought they looked tentative. I really did. Now they get their game going, they get their feet moving, and they start attacking, and they continue to attack all night long. And for the first time in this series, I thought Dallas looked uncomfortable and then didn't really know what to do. And then Tanev goes out. So, now you're looking around, you're like, okay, well, we have really just 4D. One of them is quite old and not totally mobile. So how does that affect? So I think that for the Oilers to come out tonight and you're not going to win the game in the first 5 minutes, but just start where you left off, going at them, playing hard. And I believe if they play below the tops of circles, and especially below the goal line, holding that puck, making those D-men work, making those centers twist their head around. Like Wyatt Johnson doesn't want to play in his own all night, but you want to make him work there and feel uncomfortable. And the Oilers did that, and that's the team that Ken Holland's built. Like with the Hymans, with Perry, who got back in there last night or 2 nights ago, McDavid. All those guys they're really learning how to do it. And like I said, they've learned because they've been through it many times, and now they got to do it for best 2 out of 3. But I like their chances. Why not?
Yeah, I'm with you there with Jason Strudwick. How about your Rangers? Do you like their chances of surviving Game 6, let alone Game 7, or is it Panthers into a Cup Finals? As far as you're concerned right now.
Yeah. So I think this series, I believe Florida should probably be ahead more than they are in the series, and I'm going to break it down what I saw. That goal last night, and I watched that whole game, sitting there watching that empty net goal. Sam Bennett's a man on a mission. He outworks Mika Zibanejad, and Mika, I don't know if he got hit with an elbow. I don't know, but he wasn't there to win that battle. He was in the right place, but it was more he was visiting more than rather trying to win it. And then Bennett drives the net, shoots it, and Kreider comes in and accepts the hit. He accepted the hit from Bennett after he scored the goal.
Yeah.
I'm like, buddy, plow that guy over. Or he hit you after he scored, and Bennett stood there and flexed a little bit, like, I'm the man. And there was nobody who was going to challenge him.
Yeah.
And I believe too often this series, the Rangers have kind of, bent the knee. There's nothing better than bending the knee when you see the opponent bend the knee. And those are 2 times in the same shift and that's something we could go through and watch a lot of times. This isn't about fighting. It's not about being tough. It's about competing. And they haven't competed enough. They've got a good team, but the Florida Panthers compete. Every one of them compete every shift. And you go back and watch that empty net goal, that to me is the series in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Jason, sometimes you look and call Mika Zibanejad the weak link, but when you talk about how competitive Florida is and every guy to a man competes for every single puck, you look at the opposition and say, if one guy just doesn't compete here or there, it could lead to some goals and ultimately be the difference. We talked about Huberdeau, what Florida did, and they made that one change. If you don't have everybody all in on every play, you're not going to get a chance when there's 4 teams left. And that ultimately might happen to the New York Rangers. I'm not putting it all on this guy, and I'm not going to say it's all his fault. But that could be a difference maker. Yeah. You check off matchups and say, that guy's all in, Sam Bennett's in, Kachuk's in, Verhaeghe's in. 100%. And if it's not the same on the other team, you're not going to win, Jamie.
100%. And Struddy, you made that point about that goal. I swear I was watching the same thing. And I was like, my God, where is the Kreider looked at him and just turned away. Like, the guy just hit you after an empty net. Go after him. Give him a shot. Give him a punt. Like, go into a scrum.
At that point, you might as well.
It's over.
Yeah, exactly. Game's over by then.
Hayes, you've pointed it out, Struddy. You can react to this. Was it game 1 where the defenseman, was it Mikkola?
Yes.
Mikkola.
3 seconds
hits
left on Hedl.
With 3 seconds left.
Game's over.
Buries him. You can hear Florida's bench laughing and cheering.
Yeah.
The Rangers are already in their dressing room. They leave the kid out there. Like that. To me, it's the subtle things like that where Florida's playing for keeps and the Rangers are playing, but they're not in there. They're not invested enough to push back in that. So Florida's getting them to bend the knee.
So let me give you an example. Oliver Ekman-Larsson last year with the Canucks played the entire year with a cigarette in his mouth and didn't knock the ashes off it one time. Not an ash was spilt from a broken or from like hitting someone, getting bumped. It was amazing. I saw it all year though, like Aunt Magda lengths ash on the end of his darts. And that guy, I think I may somewhere around 5 hits last night. 5 hits for Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Yeah. I mean, you talk about buy-in. If he's buying in, that tells me how hard it is. So whoever gets past in the West, that's going to be really hard because every one of those guys is in, including Aunt Magda with the dart.
Struddy, how many China Whites before the darts came out for you?
I wasn't a big dart. I liked line tip Colts. I stuck on them, right? They were a little bit of a...
Those Colts are just horrible, man.
Those Colts will bury you, man. Oh, bury you.
Those things are horrible.
You wake up with one in your throat.
Yeah.
Like it's
30 China Whites and a deck of Colts, you are done.
But you have to remember, though, the China Whites often $1.75 at the back bar on sale for the next hour. So I was doing just laps in there back and forth. In between Mrs. Jones playing, I'd sprint over there and grab them.
How are you buying the bar if you're looking for $1.75 drinks? Yeah. How does that add up?
I had to save, buddy. I got to save,
That's true. We got to have a press conference here in Toronto on that. We got to look into having a presser on Struddy and the Colts back in the day. Yeah, those things are just like I have a mental image of someone that will smoke those because they would pop up like when you're in high school. So like, hey, you want to? I remember trying them. I'm like, these things are horrible.
They're terrible. They're terrible.
Whose idea was this?
I always love the guy that says, "I quit smoking." And they have the Colts, and it's just like, no, you didn't. You're inhaling the Colts. You just have a different kind of dart.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right, Struddy. Well, we're looking forward to tonight, man. I'm pulling for the oil. I'm with you. I
don't think you are.
Well,
you don't mean that.
I'm pulling for McDavid. I did say that.
How can you pull for McDavid and not the team? That makes no sense.
Well, in the end, they actually coincide because I need the Oilers to do his bidding. I just what I'm saying here is I'm rooting for McDavid's legacy here. He's the generational player. If he's going to match what Sid did, Ovi did in the previous generation, he's got to win, right? And like it feels like
fair.
like this is the closest they've been. They're 6 wins away. You're bitter and rattled at the end of every season. You miss the playoffs, you're mad. You get swept in the first round, you're mad. This one would be like heartbreaking, Struddy. Right, like if they can't get over the top here, this would be a heartbreaking one
a chunk of flesh.
it's just it's a long season, and then you got to start back at the starting line.
The thing is, though, this Dallas team's a hell of a team too.
Oh, I'm not sleeping on them.
Sleep on them.
No, of course not.
They're,
of course not.
They're a serious team too. But all 4 of these teams are pretty damn good.
Yep.
But I think Florida. I think Florida drove a nail last night.
It felt like it last night.
Yeah, it's those guys are done.
Yeah.
They're done, and I think this one's going 7, and then whoever plays them in Florida, the way they're physical, I mean, it's going to be tough to take those guys down, and they've been there before, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I look forward to it, man. And then we can get back to the press conferences in a month. So we'll see. See what happens.
I do look forward to that. There will be press conferences here in a month. There were Blue Jay press conferences last night. Their new uniforms, their big press conference.
I hope you like that.
Who had that?
The Blue Jays. Yeah, they've got their new.
I must have missed.
Yeah, they're the new City Connect jerseys. They're flying off the shelves.
Struddy is a big Blue Jay fan. Are you not?
Oh, really?
I do. Rance Mulliniks. I love that guy. One of my favorite Blue Jays of all time.
Remember him, the stash and the shades? He would smoke Colts, that cat. That guy looks like the definition of it. All right, Strud. Yeah. Enjoy yourself tonight. Lay off the popcorn.
You're welcome, boys.
Stop threatening people out there. Okay? Stop threatening people. Thank you.
See you, boys.
Jason Strudwick of the Got Your Back podcast joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. All right. There you go, Struddy.
Good stuff.
Feeling good about the press conferences here. I don't know what he's alluding to.
I don't know.
What pressers are
He's
happening
just his shot. That's one of his shots at Toronto.
Every time he comes on, he has to have a snide backhanded comment.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I don't know why he started with the press conferences. What is he talking about?
I don't know, but he's got something to say about the pressers.
I was surprised he didn't bring up Mitch Marner and the picture of Craig Berube. Right? Like that.
Well, that's true. But, that's true. And, that was last week's news, though. We've moved on to other things.
Exactly.
All right, we're live at the RBC Canadian Open. Hamilton, the rink hole. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Just keep it safe with me. Anything you say will always stay with me.
Mail-in Friday is brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beer. Always dialed in for game time. Also into your local BP tonight. We're live at the RBC Canadian Open. A lot of our friends are popping in. Carlo's still here.
Yeah.
We should have Colaiacovo join us, although Gina's here, his wife's here.
Yeah,
they're walking around. They got a lot of stuff going on.
Doesn't need to work, but I'm sure he'd have lots of hot takes.
Oh, he'd have takes. We just saw our friend Andy Petrillo. John's here, too. And
husband John Conway.
Yeah, we got everyone's cooking. It's quieted down a little bit here at 13.
Well, are we almost like, is the field almost done,
getting
right?
We're
close to the end.
To the end of them coming through. Which was surprising yesterday because we left at 7 and there had not been anyone here for an hour.
Yeah.
And there were still random people sitting at the tee box.
Just hanging out.
It's like, why has someone not gone up to them and said, excuse me,
out.
no one's been here for an hour and they're not coming back today.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to leave.
That's true.
That hasn't happened yet. So anyway, beautiful day. Couldn't ask for anything better than this.
Have you experienced, you've been walking around in that, was around the green guy, have you had any?
I haven't seen around the green guy nearly as much. I mean, I haven't had the access to the green. Like, I've been up here a lot more watching them hit in on 10. And the way that they've got the suite set up, like, you're not as close.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was 15 green at St. George's, where around the green guy was, like, basically on the fringe.
Yeah.
So he was so in that you couldn't miss it. Now there's a little bit more space here at Hamilton. So I have not witnessed him. I guarantee you he's here.
Yeah,
I guarantee you around the green guy is here. And every year you see a different experience. I haven't seen anybody wearing a golf glove yet, which I appreciate. I think we're learning.
Rangefinder. I haven't
seen rangefinder guy yet. I haven't seen golf shoe guy, although I'll bet you he's here.
There's 100%
Someone's
golf shoe guy.
because it's what I find amazing is some people will dress as if they are a tour professional, like full tight top
Hat, everything,
like the go-to like G4 belts,
But where's-
sick hat.
What sponsors do they wear?
How many people are?
That would be great if they had
It's so
sponsors.
funny. It's
How
like-
many people are here? The golf dude guy, it's the same guy, man.
Yeah.
He's got like the golf shorts, some kind of golf tee, a goofy hat with a stupid slogan
Yeah.
on it. Golf guy, it's just a 35-year-old
I know.
dude. Here's our boy Coco. Why don't
Yeah.
we get him to hop on here?
All right. Well,
get
you
him
know
a
what?
chair.
He's kind of got a vibe going
Well,
right
we
now.
didn't
like
want to
he's-
bother him because he's hanging out with Gina.
Yeah,
All of a
well,
sudden
that's
he's
the thing.
gonna
I mean, he's
yell and-
brought the whole family out here, but we'll bring Carlo in.
You'll spit some hot takes for us.
Yeah,
It'll
we'll get
be
his
great.
take on how. I mean, they were broadcasting bright and early. Where we've been, in the afternoon, there's a lot more people out here, and as a result, I think we are more muted. We've been a little bit concerned about guys teeing off and us being
Dude,
a little
guy
bit too
at
loud.
7 a.m. when it's dead
But
quiet.
that's what I'm saying. You tee up on the
Dude, how
back at
was it,
7.
Coco?
But it's also, it's warm. We've got air conditioning. Apparently, it was like 5 degrees here this morning.
freezing.
They needed a ski mask.
Freezing.
That man said he was freezing his ass off back
You
there.
know I don't like to walk golf courses.
I'm aware of that.
I would imagine you guys parked in lot 3, where we all park.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, we're familiar with lot 3.
Let me
Yeah.
guess, you had to walk here.
Do you see how elevated this 10th hole is?
We're
Yes.
at the highest point of the golf course.
Dude, I'm not gonna give you the-
At
I'm not gonna give you
5:30
the-
in the morning,
Yeah.
by the time I get up that hill, I'm like gassed.
I'm going to say what a guy at Costco would say to you. You used to be a professional athlete, man. That should not be a challenge for you.
Yeah, you getting up a hill should not be an issue. You see bag skate for a living.
At 5:30 in the morning, it's
I
kind of an
understand
issue.
that.
Yeah,
I
but
understand
but the inspiration around me is O-Dog, because this guy says I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I just run.
Yeah.
I'm Forrest
And
Gump,
so-
man.
Yeah. He
Are
tells
you
people
one of
that.
those
No
guys,
one's
though?
seen
Let
him.
me ask you. I've
You're
got,
one of the more famous people in the city. No one's spotted him running
I've
yet.
got one question,
I'm
though.
starting to really
Are
question what's going on here.
Are you touch your toes, stretch, and you start running? Like, do you actually do a little stretching routine to get your body? Because you're 47 years old, aren't you?
I do 4 stretches. I
Okay.
do the front
Show
hip.
us. Get in front of here and show
no,
us.
you didn't need
No,
to.
I do.
Like
I do a
hamstrings,
nice.
like a-
I do a hard hip. I do.
Do you do
A
the
tight hip flexor.
Do you do the Matty Nickel?
Yeah.
Like,
and then I do this one.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
well,
on the
to
chair.
Because
Too.
you got to stretch the glute.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then my wife would kill me, but I put my foot up on the kitchen table and I do like a lunge, like
So-
Bare,
with my
barefoot
shoes
too.
on.
Barefoot. Just
Yeah,
on the
And then as
kitchen
soon as
table.
that's over, AirPods in, and I'm Forrest Gump.
That's
So at
the
least-
that's the Nacho Libre.
But
Have
that's-
you guys seen Nacho
Yeah.
Libre stretch before his match?
Exactly.
so you don't do the
video
Matty
of that.
Nickel dynamic workout where you're swinging
Dude,
the
I don't have
legs
time
up?
for a dynamic
You don't have time
workout.
for
But that's my point. Is
Good for you.
When
though.
we were
That's
all
good.
younger,
Got to stretch, man.
when I was 17 years old, I remember heading to junior camp and thinking, okay, I'm going to go for a workout. 30 minutes. You literally open the front door, run
Right
for
on.
30 minutes, come
Yeah.
back, and like I'm in shape. Like
Yeah.
that was my mentality.
I just can't believe how many people are asking me. They're like, and I don't know what this is. They're like, you're taking Ozempic.
Oh,
I
Ozempic.
know.
Yeah, I've seen
I'm
that.
like, why would I-
Jeff O. Zempic.
Yeah, it's like
I
The
was like,
Ozempic dog. Yeah.
The
well,
Ozempic
I mean, it is.
it's thinning out
it's
Hollywood.
a medical breakthrough
It's-
that
yeah.
is making people shrink in half.
Yeah.
Like within a couple of months of seeing them.
Yeah.
You don't see someone for a month or two, you see them the next time, you're like, that person's lost 100 pounds.
It's thinning out Hollywood. Everybody in Hollywood's on it.
But I think it's
apparently.
kind of everywhere now.
Oh, is it?
Well, I mean, I guess. I guess the concern, and who are we to speak on this, is that they don't really know like how it works. They
Yeah.
just know it works.
Yeah.
Like, and it suppresses.
Oh, as soon as you get that, though, people are like, where is it? I got to
well,
get
But
it.
it's-
exactly.
Isn't it for diabetics? I
Yes.
believe it's like an actual drug for diabetics. Like
Well,
it's not just
so there you go.
something like I don't know anything about it, but I've heard.
You've heard enough to
and
know
it's
that.
expensive.
So,
That's the other
Coco,
thing.
have you
Sure
had
is.
any Patton Kazire moments where you were talking and somebody was about to hit
We
a
didn't-
shot and they lost it on
We
you?
didn't have any club throws, but we had a lot of stare backs.
Really?
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
a lot. And like at least you guys here, like for the most part, it's pretty packed at
Yeah.
times at this time.
Yeah.
In the morning, there's not many people here, so the noise travels.
Yeah.
And me and AK are just having a conversation. And all
I
of a
think
sudden,
we got to go on the site survey next time to figure out where we're putting this, and we could have some input on where we're going to be talking.
I'm very
and
happy
where
with
the
that.
tee
I
box
love
is.
So
this
I
spot.
don't know the golfer. AK knows the golfer because this guy, like, you don't understand, like, the education AK knows about everybody that's in this the golf tournament.
Really?
We were talking, and all of a sudden, some guy shanks it right, and him and his caddy both look back at me and AK, and AK's like, "Oh yeah, that's so and so."
No way.
And I don't know the guy's name. He'll probably text me the guy's name, and I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to do?"
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
What were you talking in his backswing?
Well, we were just talking. I don't know who's coming up behind me.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
you
can't
can't- we
see
can't-
it.
I think we
I
just-
mean, when we were aware of it, we would do the gym dance.
Yeah, you
know,
gotta
talking
try to do
very
a gym
slow,
dance.
Is that
but-
Tommy Fleetwood?
No, Fleetwood's off the course by now.
Okay.
But,
that
yeah.
guy looks like Dave McCarthy.
He does have a new wave Dave vibe to him. That guy wasn't happy with something. The thing is, I also feel like they're just going to blame us.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? Like, you hit a bad shot. You're a professional, dude. Don't look at us. You just shanked the ball. Like,
But
Yeah.
okay,
come on,
so
who cares if someone's talking?
Hayes, I'm not trying
What
to
would you want to
continuously
hear if
talking.
you were working two donkeys talking about the Edmonton Oilers?
I got to listen to you two do that every single day. I
Exactly.
continue to work.
He's a
I
pros
continue
pro.
to be
Okay,
a professional.
Hayes,
I
this is
keep
not
my
a shot at
composure.
you because you know the compliments I give you about us. We dominated the MTHL back in the
Well,
day.
that's very
okay?
true. We did do that.
But we played in front of thousands of fans.
Where? Well, us?
In hockey,
yes. Oh,
yeah,
yes,
okay.
absolutely. I thought you meant
Do you-
the MTHL. Who the hell's going to these
It
games?
is a popular league.
Do you guys get bothered by noise? Because when I'm golfing,
First of all, dude, I got to stop you right there. Playing professional hockey in the National Hockey League is different than professional golf. Golf is where the player hits their silence. What,
I mean-
what are you going to be on a breakaway and be like, "Can you guys shut
but no,
up?"
but
It's not
no,
even the same
no, but like,
thing.
but no, but what I'm saying is like, you play
that
with
might be the craziest
no.
comparison
Hear me
I've-
out. Do you play with music on?
No, this guy hates music on the course. I did it to him once. And the
Okay,
guy
so like
openly
I'm
campaigned
kind of at
against
the
it.
point like when I play golf, like nothing bothers me.
All right.
It's like,
but you're not a professional.
okay,
dude.
but
You're not a
These guys
professional.
play in front of thousands of people when they play on the PGA Tour.
I don't know. I
He's gone
can't get in.
insane
I
here.
can't get down this road. I can't accept
I'm just
you
like-
at Rattlesnake being comparative
With six
to these
Coors
guys.
Lights in your
the
music
only
playing.
thing,
playing-
the only thing that would bother me
Yeah.
with a golf swing if somebody blew a blowhorn.
Right.
Okay.
Something
Other than
very,
that,
very
like
loud.
if somebody's talking in my backswing, it just doesn't bother me.
He's playing at Drager's goat track. and he's
Right.
like,
No.
the guy
He's-
starts a
he's
track.
fine.
I want a
Again,
member guest.
Amateur golfer.
I
No
know.
one cares what concerns you in your backswing.
Carlo Colaiacovo first up with us. So where are you at with the Leafies? We haven't talked about the Leafs, today and really much in the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
but that's because we got games tonight. We've been talking about
Yeah.
the other game tonight. We're talking about the Panther win last
Exciting
night.
hockey in these.
Yeah,
these,
and
these two
It's been
series.
outstanding.
Awesome hockey.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
less than a month. We're a month tomorrow from free agency.
Yeah.
And we're 3.5 weeks away from the draft. So, at some point, conference finals are going to come to an end. Cup final comes to an end, and then it's go time. And the Leafs, just like the other 31 teams in the league, are going to have to get a lot of business done in the course of like 2 or 3 weeks. How active do you think it will be? Let's say it's July 10th, and we're looking back on everything. Do you anticipate it's crazy? Do you think it's more kind of edge work? Where do you stand on the Leafs? and
I'm
projecting?
excited to see what Brad Treliving has in store for this team because you look at just the acquisitions he had last year, even at the deadline. I like the type of players that he's focused on to build this team.
If you're watching right now, what works right now,
100%.
The Florida Panthers are not going anywhere for the next 4 or 5 years.
Exactly. Am I confident that we're going to see major change? No. I'm not because I know it's what everybody wants, but
Can't happen.
it's hard to trade those type of players. If you're the Maple Leafs and you want to trade, let's just use Mitch Marner because that's the guy everybody focuses on. Do you believe you're going to get full value in return for what you believe he's worth? Like no one's
But
going to.
if you weren't going to re-sign him, when would that ever be? It's probably never.
You're absolutely right.
That's the alternative. Is let's say you conclude, okay, we can't make the deal that's going to work, but we don't want to have a future with Mitch. Then he's just going to walk next year. Which
That's-
may be
that's
the
the
case.
worst case scenario.
That would be that would be a hell of a
Right.
statement from the Leafs to just be like, forget it, we're done. Thanks for everything. We're moving on, and we're going to spend our money elsewhere. But something's going to have to give between now and this time next year. There's going to be a decision made.
There absolutely is. I'm in the same boat as you, Hayes, where I'll believe it when I see it. because we've been talking about it for 4 or 5 years. Something has to change. Something has to change. I think it's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one thing that has been pointed out, and it's Captain Obvious, he controls his own destiny.
Yeah.
Right? So
he doesn't want to get traded. What are we supposed to do?
The Leafs say, or Brendan Shanahan, or Brad Trilling, or Craig.
He can
Berube.
be like that meme in the
just
baseball stadium when the guy's just like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thumbs down.
Like that little kid with the but you know
respect hat on.
Yeah, at that point you got to figure out what him and his camp and his inner circle wants, and the Leafs have to figure out what they want in the short term and the long term. It might align.
Yeah.
It might not, though. Like, that's the other thing. The only thing that worries me, and I don't know how you three would feel about it, if they can't figure out something and they don't extend him, I don't know if you let that asset walk.
Well,
for zero.
You
because
can't.
now he's
You've invested so much in him.
He's
so what are you going to do, though?
I understand.
You're just going to
that.
keep him, but then again, it's deja vu every single year.
Right.
They'll lose, and then it's like, well, we can't let a guy walk. It's like that's what happened. That's how they got in this position.
Yeah.
Got to just give them anything. Can't exist without these guys. And Mitch isn't alone in that. Austin's in there, Willie's in there, Tavares. They're all in there. They're all the same caliber of player.
The got to give him this is totally removed from the equation.
Thing. Now that's a different conversation. Like losing him, quote unquote, for nothing. But I don't know how do you get around that? Like there's no way around it unless it's going to be a sign and trade or something like that.
Right.
Like it does feel like John Tavares was. There's a lot of buzz around JT as well. Like what are you going to do with him? I think it's muted because I think cooler heads have prevailed and people realize he's not going anywhere. And he's in a different position in his career. Like, that's my opinion, is he's going to look at this and say, sorry, guys, I'm the captain of the Leafs, and I'm going to relish in this. I got 1 year left. I got a full no move. My wife's here. My kids are here. They're in school. We got a house. I'm not leaving. Yeah. So don't ask me.
I actually wouldn't be against them re-signing Tavares for a hometown discount past this year to be a third-line center on this team moving forward.
But, again, don't you – like, we've seen 6 years where it's just – it hasn't worked, and then – if that happens again next year, maybe it doesn't. Maybe they take this in a different direction and they win, and Berube connects a bunch of dots and they get a goalie going. There's a lot. We don't know what's going to happen next season, so we could have a very different viewpoint next year. Right. But if it gets to a point where playoffs out in the first round, I don't see how you can do that. I just feel like you got to move on.
When somebody makes a statement like that, I want a comparable, Carlo. So it's like I wouldn't mind, and John's been a great soldier. He works hard. He's a professional. But when you say I wouldn't mind keeping him around as a hometown discount, what's the comparable? Let's say the Florida Panthers. Where's the guy on Florida where you could say he could be that guy? Tell me the guy.
Well,
there's no comparable.
There's no comparable.
Even in the past couple of years, a team that's won, are you going to say he's going to be the Cogliano of the team? I don't know. Well, I just think when you're the captain of the team and you've made that much money and it hasn't worked, and it's not all on him. But sooner or later, there's just got to be change and different players and a different mentality, and everything's got to be different. You look at what Florida's doing out in the ice right there. It's way different than what Toronto brings to the table. So to have any of the similar faces moving forward, it just doesn't make sense. You've got to have something completely different.
I totally agree with what you're saying, which is why I'm in the boat with Hayes. Like, I'll believe it when I see it. But people are, like, to hear people say, oh, if we would have played Florida in the first round, we would have had a better chance.
Well, I don't know about that.
I think the Leafs got lucky that they got Boston in the first round because it gave them a better chance to win.
It was another gift, and they just blew it.
They blew it, right?
I mean, technically on paper, this was the weakest Boston team we've seen in a while.
If they weren't going to beat that Boston team this year, it's just like, when are you ever going to do it?
Could you imagine what a series like Florida would have looked like in the first round?
Well, we know the answer to that.
Yeah.
We have that. And Brad Treliving has it. And Shanahan has it. The question is, what are they going to do about it? And if, all these players, and they all have their contracts, and they're all no movement clauses, if they all come back, then remember this conversation, because it's not going to change next year. It could in a couple of years, possibly. But that's where I think it's a fascinating conversation and debate, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Where let's say there's a world where Tavares and Marner say, we're staying, we love it here, and that's totally their right. They have the no movement clause, and I think the way the Leafs have operated for years, they'll respect that.
Yep.
They're not a ruthless Vegas, we're going to make your life miserable type of organization. They don't operate that way. I don't think that will change.
I don't think Vegas makes people's life miserable.
I'm
they
not
just say
saying
we're moving on from you.
okay. I guess my point is there are a lot of guys that have wanted to stay in Vegas, and they've said you're not staying.
That's the ruthless part.
And that's the point.
Marchessault hasn't even had a conversation about an extension.
Exactly.
He won the Conn Smythe
And maybe
last
they
year.
won't. Marc-Andre Fleury.
Right.
Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury. I can't give you an example of someone with a no movement clause because that hasn't happened yet. But the point being is there were a lot of guys that didn't want to leave, and they said, you're leaving.
That's
It's
right.
that simple.
Yeah.
And you're not here anymore because we want somebody else. The Leafs have not operated that way with these players before, and I'm not sure it's going to change. If it doesn't and they all come back, I'm honestly wondering if they just say, all right, we got to basically punt on a year. Like, not punt to the point where we're tanking, but what are you going to do next year?
Yeah.
What are these guys have proven what they are, who they are in the playoffs. The playoffs will not be different. So
this is what I want to
stop
ask you
spending
guys.
money and assets and everything and load up for when you can get off the books and move somewhere else.
Here's one just like crazy thing. If you keep some form of what the forwards look like, because you got decisions to make on Domi and
by the way, did you
Bertuzzi.
guys hear what Drag said about those conversations this
No.
morning? We had him on our show this morning.
What did he say?
And he said he spoke to Tree Living after those reports came out, and he's asked Dregs, he goes, I think it's Moldaver that's those
Chad
two
Moldaver?
agents.
Yeah, it's
He's
the
like,
same as Austin, I
Did he
believe.
leak that stuff to Pierre LeBrun? Because if that's what those guys are looking for, they better look for it somewhere else.
Domi and Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
Like
Right?
massive long-term
Those
deals. at big
massive
money.
long-term deals.
There's no way they're getting
But let's say,
those
so
deals.
right?
Yeah.
if you had a wish list of, with this core four, what is it? You said a goalie,
I
more
think
D.
a goalie, 3 defensemen. I think you need a second
You
line
have
center.
to
Right, so
finally
you're looking
fix
at,
this
like,
defense.
How are you finding all that?
I don't know.
You're
But
not
that's
going
the
to.
thing. Like, like Mitch Marner, if he makes it that he's like, I'm not leaving,
Yeah.
John Tavares, you might have to just focus on some of the things that you have that you can control.
I don't think you
I
have
don't
enough
know.
money for it. That's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah,
you got to wait a
that's
year
true.
to do it.
Cash,
That's what I'm
cash
saying.
is king.
Yeah, I think you'd have to wait a year to
or
do
these
it.
kids push through on low money.
Well, they've been waiting for that for a long time. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, Carlo. Good seeing you, man.
Boys, great seeing you too, man.
You just
stuff.
cruising around here or what? Where's
Yeah, you know what? I was here Wednesday, Thursday. I had to leave right after the show on Friday. My wife wanted to check out the game of golf.
Beautiful.
Yes.
We got a nice little hookup here, so it's been a nice day.
Of course.
Nice little date night.
There you go,
There's
little date
signing
day.
autographs
Amazing
over there
day.
in the corner to
Amazing
make some
stuff.
money.
Amazing stuff. There he is, Carlo Colaiacovo. We're live at the RBC Canadian Open. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, coverage of the RBC Canadian Open on TSN 1050 brought to you by Subaru. Embrace spring weather with the Subaru All-Weather Drive event. Visit your local Subaru dealer to book a test drive today. We got a big one coming up in the final hour. Our main man, Graham Dillette, will join us, who's doing an awesome job also with NBC.
Yep. GD.
TSN, of course. We got Mike Johnson coming up. Game 5, Edmonton, Dallas tonight. Panthers with a win last night. Catch up with Johnny. Get into a number of things with him. Our best bets as well coming up. We're live on the rink hole. 13th hole, Hamilton Golf and Country Club, the RBC Canadian Open. Final hour of the week. Up next, Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.